What's up, everyone? Mr. Octagonal here. Now, today, the NFL Draft is today. As of recording this, it's a little bit less than 14 hours away. I know we are all super excited for this. It's going to be a very fun and a very exciting night. I will be posting grades at the end of the draft, likely late Saturday or probably Sunday. So without further ado, this mock draft is only one round. I just made a 7-round one a few days ago, and I didn't really want to overload myself. There are trades in this one, so let's get her done. The first pick, the Cardinals select Kyler Murray, quarterback, Oklahoma. Now, pretty much this whole pre-draft process, I've not been sold on Arizona wanting Kyler Murray, but now I would be shocked if he's not a Cardinal. I just don't see a way that they don't pick him number one, and obviously there are rumors that they may not take him. Apparently, Cliff Kingsbury said that the pick is not finalized. However, I think it is. I think they know they're going with Kyler, bearing some big trade today. And personally, I would pick Kyler as well. He is my number 10 graded prospect, so there are 9 better than him. But Josh Rosen, I don't think, can win you a Super Bowl. Yeah, he might be a solid starter, but I don't think he can lead you to a Super Bowl. I think Kyler Murray has the potential to be a Super Bowl level quarterback. Not saying he will be, but I think he has the chance to. Number 2, Nick Bosa, edge rusher, Ohio State to the 49ers. Assuming Kyler goes number 1, this is a very simple pick. Bosa is number 1 on most people's draft boards, and I assume that includes the San Francisco 49ers, who could use an edge rusher. DeForest Buckner is great inside. Solomon Thomas is great inside. I view Solomon Thomas more as a defensive tackle, a 4-3 defensive tackle at least, and then D. Ford can be an edge rusher, but he's their only really good edge rusher, and they need someone else alongside D. Ford, and I think that could be Nick Bosa, who has by far the highest floor in this draft class. I don't see him being a bust. I don't think he is the ceiling that a Quinnen Williams has. I don't think he is the ceiling that a Josh Allen has. And I don't think he is the ceiling that even Ed Oliver has. But he has such a good floor, and he does have a really good ceiling. So I think this is a nice pick for San Fran. Pick 3. I have a trade. The Washington Redskins move up, giving up their first-round pick this year, pick 15, as well as their second-round pick and a first next year to the Jets. Yeah, that's a lot of value that the Redskins are giving up, but they want to make sure they get their guy, and that is Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback from Ohio State. There are a lot of rumors that the Redskins might go ahead and pick Daniel Jones. However, if they are in this situation with Haskins on the board, I assume he will be the pick. I personally like Haskins a lot more than Daniel Jones. I just feel that Haskins is a better decision maker. I think he has a better arm. While he's obviously not good outside the pocket, I think Washington's offensive line is talented enough where it's not like the Giants' O-line where it's just pure awfulness. Yeah, the Redskins have some holes on their O-line, but they have some very good players as well in that unit. And meanwhile, for the Jets, remember, they traded up last year, giving up a decent bit of assets. So now trading down, yeah, they don't have a pick till the middle of the first round now. They might not get a blue-chip player, but they're adding, hopefully for them, 2 starters, plus a first-round pick next year, which I expect to be a somewhat high pick, because I don't see the Redskins doing great. Pick 4, Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle, Alabama to the Raiders. Best player available. Yeah, the Raiders do have some talent at defensive tackle. Mo Hurst, P.J. Hall were both good as rookies. However, I think someone can move over to end. I think Quinnen Williams is a good enough pass rusher to do it. And I just think this pick makes a ton of sense for the Raiders. He's my number 1 player in this draft class, and I think he's going to be an absolute beast. Pick 5, Josh Allen, edge rusher, Kentucky to the Bucks. So Allen falls into their laps. He's not going top 5. I think this is the latest where he goes, bearing some team trading up for a quarterback. And I just think this pick makes a ton of sense. The Bucks could use an edge rusher in Allen, who has some very nice versatility. You can put him in coverage. You can have his hand in the dirt. You can have his hand out of the dirt. And I think he's going to be a really good player. Pick 6, Daniel Jones, quarterback, Duke to the Giants. Yeah, the value is questionable here, but the Giants want to make sure they get their guy. And from the rumors that I've seen, they really like Daniel Jones. Obviously, those rumors very well could be false, but I just think that the Giants do really like Daniel Jones over Drew Lock, and I think they're going to pull the trigger right now. I think that they don't think he's going to be there until 17, which I don't think he'll be there until 17 either. And they just want to make sure they get him now. They still have 17. They can get another player. And while I don't love Daniel Jones, I think it makes sense for the Giants to get their future signature caller now. Pick 7, Jawan Taylor, offensive tackle, Florida to the Jaguars. There's a Jaguars fan in the comment section of all of my mocks who has said that he does not think they're going to go Jawan Taylor. And the reason why I'm bringing him up is he definitely seems like he knows what he's talking about. There's a lot of people in my comments who don't know what they're talking about, but I do think he does. However, I just think this pick makes too much sense for them to pass up. They only have one clear hole on their offensive line, and that's right tackle. And that's the position that Jawan Taylor is. They cut Jeremy Parnell, and they need a replacement. Taylor can plug and play right away. He's very athletic, solid in pass blocking and in run blocking, and I think this is a great pick for Jacksonville. Pick 8, Devin White, linebacker, LSU to the Lions. He totally falls into their lap, and as a Lions fan, I would be thrilled if we got Devin White. I'm definitely hoping for a lot of quarterback drama in the top 7 because that means we get someone really good. Or some desperate team may give us extra assets to trade down, which is also fine with me. But in this scenario, the pick is going to be Devin White. I was tempted to move the Falcons up to get Ed Oliver, but I'm not going to do it here. Now, the Lions did just take Jarrad Davis a couple years ago, but he's solid at rushing the passer, and I think he can sort of transition into a little bit more of an edge rusher, whereas Devin White can be the 3-down, sideline to sideline middle linebacker. Now on to pick 9, the Bills get Jonah Williams, offensive lineman from Alabama. As Jonah Williams can play tackle, he can play guard, and the Bills want to make sure that they have enough pieces to protect Josh Allen, who was running for his life like a madman last year. And I think this pick makes a ton of sense. He is my best offensive lineman on the board, or I might have had Dillard above him. I'm not entirely sure. They were both very close to each other in my big board. I think I might have had Dillard ahead of him, but this pick still does make a ton of sense for the Bills. Jonah Williams has a lot of college production, and obviously his versatility can be very big. Pick 10, Drew Lock, quarterback, Missouri to the Broncos. I'm pretty much sold on the Broncos getting a quarterback. There's obviously a chance it doesn't happen, and I'm not 100% sold they're going to do it, but I just have a gut feeling that the Broncos are going to pull the trigger on a quarterback. Joe Flacco can start this year, but he's not the long-term guy. Obviously, we know John Elway loves Drew Lock. He's an Elway-type guy, and I think the Broncos are a little bit lucky that he's on the board rather than Daniel Jones. And if it was Jones rather than Lock in this situation, I don't know if they would pull the trigger. But with Lock here, I definitely think this is the right move for them. Pick 11, I have a trade. I have the Atlanta Falcons moving up 3 spots as they give the Bengals their first rounder, which is pick 14, as well as a third rounder this season, which I think is really nice value for Cincinnati. And meanwhile, the Falcons get Ed Oliver, who's my number 2 player in the class. So it's not necessarily a bad deal for the Falcons at all. Making sure they get him now, there's a good chance the Packers or the Dolphins or someone would trade up to get him. I don't see a scenario where Ed Oliver is on the board at 14. So the Falcons get the guy they want, who's someone who I really like. And I think this is a great move for the Falcons. And as a Lions fan, I'm very happy because he's not going to Green Bay. Pick 12, TJ Hockenson, tight end, Iowa to the Packers. TJ Hockenson can run block. He can make catches. He's a very solid athlete. He's an all-around really good tight end. This is the latest I see him going. I could see the Jaguars pull the trigger on him at 7. I think we could at 8. I think Buffalo could at 9. And I think Denver could at 10. I think all 4 of those teams could go with Hockenson. However, none of them actually do. And he falls into Green Bay's lap, which obviously does make me sad. But at least it's not Ed Oliver, I guess. Pick 13, Andre Dillard, offensive tackle, Washington State to the Dolphins. I'm pretty sure I had Dillard to the Dolphins in my 7-round mock that I uploaded on Saturday. And I think this pick makes a really ton of sense for the Dolphins. They're going to get a young franchise quarterback likely next season or maybe in the 2nd round this year like a Will Grier or a Jarrett Stidham. And they want someone who can pass block, and they're getting the best pass blocker in this draft class in Andre Dillard. Obviously, there are questions about his run blocking because Washington State barely ran the ball, but I do think this pick makes a lot of sense for Miami. Pick 14, Devin Bush, linebacker, Michigan, to the Bengals. So Cincinnati moves 3 picks down. They get a third rounder, and they get the guy who they probably pick at 11 in Devin Bush. They absolutely need linebackers. Bush is a leader. He is very talented, extremely athletic. He tested very similarly to Devin White at the Combine. And I think this pick is a really good one for Cincinnati. I'm not as high on Bush as other people, but for need, I don't think it's a bad selection. Pick 15, Montez Sweat, edge rusher, Mississippi State, to the Jets. They moved down, and now they select the Mississippi State Bulldog. There are minor heart concerns with him that are just coming out, but personally, I don't think he's going to slide too far. I have had him going at 8 to my Lions for the past 2 mock drafts, but this time I have Washington getting him at 15. And then pick 16, Cleveland Ferrell, edge rusher, Clemson, to the Panthers. Julius Peppers retired. They need edge rushers. They could go with Brian Burns as well in this scenario. However, I do think it is going to be Ferrell, who is built more like a defensive end, which is what Peppers played. And I think this is a very solid pick for Carolina. With pick 17, the Giants add Brian Burns, edge rusher, Florida State, as I think I put him at 20 on my big board, which is kind of harsh. Burns is a very talented player. He's very athletic, and he's very well-rounded. So I do think 20 was a little bit harsh on my part. Maybe I'm just saying that because there is a realistic chance that the Lions pick him. But I do really like Burns, and I think this is a nice pick for the Giants, who could use some edge rushers. Pick number 18, Cody Ford, offensive lineman, Oklahoma, to the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, if they need offensive line, I think they have to go with one here in the first round. And they're going to go with Ford, who can play tackle, he can play guard. The Vikings need both tackle and guard. So they have Brian O'Neill, who's more of a right tackle. So Cody Ford would likely either have to play right guard or move to the left side, which I think he can definitely do. Pick 19, Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, Clemson, to the Titans. They could use a defensive tackle as Jarrell Casey, not getting any younger. He's not really a defensive tackle. He's more of a 3-4 end, I would say. So they need someone who can clog up the middle, good run stopper in Wilkins. Not the best pass rusher. He's not like Quinnen Williams getting to the quarterback, but he is still really, really good. He has a very high floor, very high character player. He doesn't have an amazing ceiling, but I do think this is a nice pick for the Titans. Pick number 20, Greedy Williams, cornerback out of LSU to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's tall, he's lean, he has good ball skills, and obviously the value is here with this selection. I think it makes a ton of sense for the Steelers to do it. Pick 21, Rashawn Gary, defensive lineman, Michigan, to the Seattle Seahawks. They just traded away Frank Clark. They have another pick in the first round, pick 29, which they got from the Chiefs in that deal, and they need someone to replace him. So why not go with Gary, who apparently does have a torn labrum, which is pretty serious. He's either going to need surgery and miss a decent chunk of the year, or play through it, have surgery at the end of the year. It's not a good situation, and obviously this is not good timing if you're Rashawn Gary, who might lose out on millions of dollars because of this, because he slips a decent amount of picks. And if it weren't for this, there's still a decent chance that he'd be going top 10 or top 15. I personally still really like Gary. I think this is a steal for Seattle. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I'm personally a huge fan of him. Pick 22, DK Metcalf, wide receiver out of Ole Miss to the Baltimore Ravens. I've had DK going a lot higher, and I think he should go higher. He's my number 1 offensive player in this class. I really, really like him, and I think this is phenomenal value for Baltimore, who needs a big-bodied receiver for Lamar Jackson. I think this is a great fit for DK, and I think it's a great fit for Baltimore. Pick 23, Garrett Bradbury, offensive lineman, NC State, to the Houston Texans. Like the Vikings, I think they have to go O-line in round 1. Bradbury's the best one available. He had a really good combine. He can play center. He can also play guard. And they can go after a tackle on day 2. Maybe a Caleb McGarry or Titus Howard, 2 players who I like. And I think this is a really good pick for the Texans. And then pick 24, Noah Fant, tight end, Iowa, to the Raiders. Yeah, they need to focus on defense, but this is great value. They lost Jared Cook in the offseason. And getting the super athlete in Noah Fant, who can stretch the field for Derek Carr. I really like the pick here. I'm a big fan of Noah Fant. Solid pick by the Raiders. Now on to the bottom part of the first round, starting with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to go with Jonathan Abrams, safety out of Mississippi State. I'm not as high on Abrams as other people. My number one safety is Nasir Adderley. However, Abrams is a talented player, old school, hard-hitting safety, a little bit like Malcolm Jenkins in a way, who is already on the Philadelphia Eagles. Rodney McLeod is meh and injury prone, and the Eagles secondary as a whole is injury prone. I don't think Abram is great in coverage, and he may need to have some snaps at corner because of all those injury prone players, which is why that I think they should go Nasir Adderley in this scenario. However, Jonathan Abram can learn from Malcolm Jenkins, who I said is pretty similar to him, and Jenkins, who's not getting any younger, can have his heir apparent on the roster, which does make sense for Philly. As I said, I think they should go Nasir Adderley or maybe even offensive line, maybe a Dalton Risner or even a Greg Little. Pick 26, N'Keal Harry, wide receiver, Arizona State to the Colts. So, as you can see, I assume you've read all the picks. There's no Marquise Brown in round one, and I think the Colts would rather go N'Keal Harry than Brown. Brown is much more of a risk, and I feel like that the Colts are too talented that you want to get someone who you know will be good, you know will make you better. The Colts already have a deep threat who can stretch the field in T.Y. Hilton, so why not get a Mr. Reliable type player, N'Keal Harry, who's a good route runner, he has good hands. Yeah, he doesn't have the ceiling, nor does he have the speed that Marquise Brown does, but he's a more well-rounded player, and they don't need two deep threats. Pick 27, Josh Jacobs, running back Alabama, to the Raiders. Marshawn Lynch just retired yesterday, but I don't really think that means much. I think they would have picked Jacobs anyway. They signed Isaiah Crowell, which I actually didn't know about. Someone told me in the comments. And even though they did, he's not the guy. Doug Martin's not the guy. And I think it's going to be hard for John Gruden to pass up on Jacobs, who is still available in this scenario. Pick 28, Elgton Jenkins, offensive lineman, Mississippi State, to the Chargers. Might be a little bit high, but they could use a couple more pieces on their O-line. And I really like Elgton Jenkins personally. He can play center, he can play guard, he can even play a little bit of tackle. And I think this pick makes a ton of sense for the Chargers. Pick 29, Byron Murphy, cornerback, Washington, to Seattle. This is the pick via Kansas City. I think Murphy would be the pick to Kansas City. And the fact that he's available is pretty crazy to me. As I mentioned earlier, I could see the Falcons trading up at 8 with the Lions. Lions moved to 14, and I definitely think Byron Murphy's in play. I think he really fits what Matt Patricia likes. And as a Lions fan, I would not be shocked in the slightest if Byron Murphy is a Lion in 24 hours. However, he's fallen into the Seattle Seahawks' lap. They have Shaquille Griffin, who's a really solid player. They have Trey Flowers, not the edge rusher on my Lions, Trey Flowers, but a different Trey Flowers, so had a really solid rookie year last year. However, they could use an extra corner, and this is mainly a value pick, I would say, with Byron Murphy. High instinct player. I think he's going to be really good right away. Doesn't have the ceiling that Greedy Williams does, but I think he's a really solid player. Pick 30, A.J. Brown, wide receiver, Ole Miss, to the Green Bay Packers. Once again, no Marquise Brown. Why not? Well, they have a deep threat in Devontae Adams. Yeah, he doesn't have the straight line speed that T.Y. has, but Adams can certainly stretch the field, and they need a Mr. Reliable for Aaron Rodgers. It's not Jimmy Graham. It's not any of the receivers they have. They had Randall Cobb, but he's gone. I think he signed with the Cowboys. So they need someone. A.J. Brown is very similar to N'Keal Harry. I think he's a tad bit better as a prospect than Harry, but not by too much. As obviously not the fastest, but good route runner, good hands, not a crazy ceiling, but has a nice floor. Pick 31, Rock Ya-Sin, cornerback, Temple, to the Rams. Not DeAndre Baker, so no DeAndre Baker here in the first round, but instead it's going to be Ya-Sin, whose name has sort of been going up steadily in mock drafts. I do expect him to, at the earliest, still be a late first round pick. However, I do think the Rams are going to go with him over DeAndre Baker, as I really like Ya-Sin's potential. Physical corner, good in press coverage. I think Marcus Peters, as I've said, is overrated. Aqib Talib is not getting any younger, plus he has the off-the-field stuff, plus he is somewhat injury-prone. So the Rams could use some depth early on, and then someone who can develop. And then pick 32, I have the Patriots trading out of the first round. What's new? Now, obviously, it could be for Josh Rosen. However, I have the Oakland Raiders moving up to select Jalen Ferguson, edge rusher out of Louisiana Tech. The Patriots will get some future assets, as in, like, the next couple days. And I think this makes a ton of sense for Oakland. Get yourselves a actual pass rusher who might not be available at your pick in the second round. You don't want to risk it. And Ferguson obviously has plenty of production, most sacks in college football history, I believe. And I really like this move for Oakland. And meanwhile, New England, you get more picks and you can draft more gems. Or maybe you can package them in a deal for Josh Rosen, which is what I think they should do. And yeah, that'll do it for the mock draft. Very excited for tonight. And hopefully my Lions don't strike out. We probably will, though.
I traded in my shoes for some robbers. Playing Batman, 50 some robbers. Hey, I got